For those of you that love talking about animals, from Sci News, Anthracosuchus balrogus, giant prehistoric crocodile discovered. Paleontologists have discovered a new species of crocodile like reptile that swam in the rivers of what is now Colombia during Paleocene, about 60 million years ago. And now, from prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. Welcome to Creature Guide Live Prehistoric News. And let's dive right back into the prehistoric news of the day.
Shouldn't that have said during the Paleocene?
Yeah, that would have been better. So this is during the first 6 million years of the Paleocene epoch, as well as the Cenozoic era in general. You might even say the Tertiary. So let's see. Well, we'll talk about who's trying to engulf him a little later. Oh, well, it already mentions it. Uh,
Why can't it just show him?
yeah, I. Here's the thing. Uh, Early Paleocene crocodilomorphs. Well, no, let me rephrase that. Crocodiles, even though crocodiles are technically crocodilomorphs, are just a distinct branch. They get a lot of disrespect, especially down in South America during this time period. I mean, they had more respect during the late Cretaceous period in North America with T Rex, other species of crocodilomorphs, and then all of a sudden, the Cenozoic era begins, and this problem. Though I'd say this snake became a problem a bit later into the Eocene, not necessarily this early on. But let's keep going. The newly discovered prehistoric monster has been named Anthracosuchus balrogus. The specific epithet balrogus derives from the balrog, the name of a ferocious fictional creature that appeared in J.R.R. Tolkien's novel Lord of the Rings and dwelled deep in the Middle Earth mines of Moray. I didn't know that. That's interesting. Okay. So, Anthracosuchus balrogus belongs to Dryosauridae, not referring to the Dryosaur ornithischians from the late Jurassic period, which were dinosaurs. This is specifically a crocodilomorph, a family of now extinct crocodiliforms that lived from late Cretaceous to the Eocene. Um, you had it where different branches of the crocodilomorph lineage only evolved somewhere between 70 to 80 million years ago. But this one was short lived, probably dying out around 45 million years ago.
Wait a minute, how far back do they go?
With Dryosauridae, I do not know. But other crocodilomorphs say they could travel back as far as 230 million years. Originating in Africa, these crocodile like reptiles swam across the Atlantic Ocean to South America about 75 million years ago. I think that's still up for debate. We don't really know specifically. That's a long trip, even back 60, 61 million years ago. The family somehow survived the extinction event that wiped out the dinosaurs and persisted to become a top predator. We had several families of different crocodilomorphs that survived, as well as different mammal, bird, other reptile lineages on land. Four specimens of Anthracosuchus balrogus were unearthed in the Carajon coal mine, northern Colombia. Interesting. Four specimens of this animal as well. Um, That way, I think I mentioned earlier I mixed up the late Cretaceous with the early Paleocene. Still, though, that would have been a very far swim for the crocodilomorph 75 million years ago.
He's referencing the 4 because in the last article done, it was also 4.
Yeah, the that small ornithischian, they found four individuals from Venezuela, however. So let's take a look at that individual. So this is who would have preyed on many species of animal in general back in Colombia, somewhere around 48 million years ago, at least. This is Titanoboa, which is one of the earliest members of the Boidae lineage of snakes. The Boids first evolved somewhere around 70 million years ago during the last 4 million years of the late Cretaceous period, and this was the largest to exist. And it's likely that this animal was not venomous, or at least there isn't any evidence for it being venomous. It seems to have more of a anaconda or python-like um, sort of jaw structure. So it's very possible it would have constricted its prey. And it might have not been too slow either. However, this snake could reach over 45 feet in length and probably weigh up to 2,500 pounds with larger individuals. Now, would this individual have been able to take down something as large as a T Rex? Mainly because there was a famous animation way back that National Geographic put out that showed a Titanoboa taking out a T Rex. All T Rex would have to do is step on it or just decide, you know what, it wouldn't even have to be a big T Rex. It could just, a juvenile could, so a 3 or 4 ton individual could walk up to it, and just crush its head. It would barely be any work.
Well, even if it just bit it.
Um, yeah, it wouldn't take much. I mean, it could bite the thickest part of the snake and still just quickly end it. Nothing in the Cenozoic era could fight a T Rex. Actually, many theropods in general. But anyway, the snake still would have fed on different species of crocodiles or early species of caimans, as well as even certain species of turtles, other snakes. That's very common even with today's snakes, even anacondas in general. Now, let's head back to the article. So, it quickly became clear that the four fossil specimens were unlike any Dryosaur species ever found. Okay, I'm wondering if that's the right family because that's Dinosaur. Okay, that makes more sense. I was reading Dryosaur, probably because we've been talking about them a lot. Anyway, the crocodiliforms that lived in the Carahone ecosystem during the Paleocene, when temperatures were higher than today, thrived and grew to enormous sizes. You had many areas of the earth in general that would have been covered in dense forests. And then in these regions, you would have had different types of marshes and swamps. I'd say a bit different from, gosh, what's that ecosystem, South America? Not hitting me. But, the Pantanal. You might have had certain ecosystems like that back in, Paleocene South America.
The
So it's
what?
basically the Pantanal ecosystem, it's like over 500,000 square miles, and it consists of a wide range of different marshes, and it does have a wet and dry season.
Wait, where is it?
I believe it's over in southern Brazil. Certain parts of it are protected. You have different, especially recently, like thriving tapir and jaguar populations. The anacondas as well. The crocodiliforms that lived in, oh, I already mentioned this. Okay, so here's the skull. Well, this is very well preserved. Oh, these are all four skulls. Wow, that looks really good. He's got a very thick skull. This is sort of like with what you see in later crocodile species like Parasaurus. Many also tend to associate Parasaurus with Titanoboa. Parasaurus won't evolve until the Miocene epoch, towards the mid part of the period around 15 million years ago, and the Titanoboa would have been long extinct.
Wait a minute, is this 4 skulls or each skull flipped over?
No, I think it's all four skull. Oh, no, well, this one looks like it could be, but it doesn't have this distinct hook.
Yeah, but that's why I said if it's flipped. Wait, go.
But this is
Because
broken
look,
over
if wait,
here.
no, look here. See right here?
Yeah,
That well,
yeah,
no.
that's completely different. And if you look at the sides of the skull, um,
So they found 2 thick skulls,
yeah, this is different. Yeah, that's not the same. So yeah, these are four completely different ones.
that's the same. This and this,
Well, huh?
but I'm not seeing this, but being
Yeah, that
flipped.
one looks identical. Maybe they are flipped over.
Well, except for we don't see this.
Yeah, it is. It is flipped over because
Yeah, it's right there.
this looks much smoother. And when you look here, and the way the eye sockets are showing, okay, I thought it. At first, I was thinking they were flipped over. Then I thought, well, maybe these are all four. They're flipped.
Yeah, because right here and right here.
Okay.
Well,
So
I was wondering how they got 2 that were thin and 2 that were thick.
I would still think that when it came to this crocodilomorph, Anthracosuchus being a potential prey item for Titanoboa, fully grown Anthracosuchus, I would think that would still be a big risk for the snake. Many times, it usually tends to happen with horned animals. Anacondas have bursted from simply intaking too much food at once.
Doesn't
Pythons.
that happen with, pythons in Florida?
Oh, yeah, definitely with deer. It can also happen with antelope over in Africa with different python individuals and pythons over in India when they intake deer or um, other antelope species. So this would still be a risk when intaking, a heavily armored um, crocodilian or crocodilomorph. So let's see. This group offers clues as to how animals survive extinctions and other catastrophes. As we face climates that are warmer today, what? No way. No, it was much warmer during the Eocene or Paleocene epoch. By the way, it was warmer like 3 to 4,000 years ago. All these glaciers that we have today are like in the past, they were created in the past few thousand years. They weren't here during the Ice Age. So, um, the Pleistocene over 12,000 years ago. Those all disappeared. In fact, you had different times in the Pleistocene epoch when most of the glaciers would have disappeared and then they came back. So you had all these intermediate events. This is just propaganda. Okay, it is important to understand how animals responded in the past. This family of crocodiliforms in Cerrejón adapted and did very well despite incredible obstacles, which could speak to the ability of living crocodiles to adapt and overcome. Well, they died out, so they didn't do that well. But, um, you always
That
have to
was
take
funny.
you always have to take that into account. Um, the crocodiles and alligators today are quite distantly related to this group. So, their lineage evolved, like, when you look at the crocodilian group as a whole, so that's including the caimans, alligators, and crocodiles, which technically belong to different smaller families. Started, like, somewhere between 70 to 80 million years ago during the Late Cretaceous. Now, so they were more successful than this group. Now, let's see, where was I getting at? Oh, I would think Titanoboa would hunt um smaller Anthracosuchus, but it wouldn't go after full-grown individuals. That's a big risk because it's still going to fight back, despite it being smaller than the Titanoboa. At least I think. Um, let's take a look. Anthracosuchus balrogus was about 5 meters long and weighed 410 kilograms, and had an unusually blunt snout for species in the Dinosaurs family. Okay, so an 18-foot long 900-pound animal, it's going to still put up a major fight against a Titanoboa. And that's also talking about 2,500 pounds, probably the max for a Titanoboa. Um, on average, they were probably somewhere around 1,100 pounds. So this is a big risk. And this is also the crocodilomorph is going to have a much stronger bite force. It's going to be able to penetrate that snake. Um, now the question is, once the Titanoboa has it constricted or it's wrapped around the crocodilomorph, that is if it's the way it hunted, which is very likely. I think at that point it probably would have, been able to consume it. But I think it's crocodilomorph bit it first, then the Titanoboa has a problem, especially if it can death roll too. So let's see. The species' short snout paired with large jaw muscles, typical of Dirosaurids, would give it an incredibly powerful bite. It lived in freshwater rivers alongside the famous giant Titanoboa snake, measured up to 18 meters long, ate turtles and fish. I did mention earlier that Titanoboa might have lived slightly later. It's possible I might be thinking of a specific Titanoboa species, and maybe towards the end of Anthracosuchus's reign, there was Titanoboa, which tends to happen with many species of animals. Um, anyway, let's visit another individual. So this is a mammal, but is a very distant relative of today's rhinos. So in some instances, they are seen as the rhinos of the Eocene epoch. So this is Uintatherium, which is practically the largest herbivore of this time. Though there are certain other members of the was it the well, Uintatherium lineage that would have been larger than Uintatherium itself. But this animal could reach over 12 feet in length and probably weigh up to 5 tons. So for the time, it was one of the largest mammals to have evolved. And despite it having saber teeth, it's a very distant relative of the saber-toothed cats, the marsupial saber-tooths. This animal, it's a bit of a question as to why they evolved this distinct canine. It's a big question still as to what they might have used them for, considering this animal seems to have had a bit of a digestive system similar to today's horses, rhinos, lagomorphs like rabbits, so having a very distinct hind gut, which is very different from what you see in ruminants or the four-chambered stomach from cows or
Wait, what's a ruminant?
it's an animal with a four-chambered stomach. So, oh, well, basically, if you look at something like a deer, and when you see it regurgitating its food and chewing on the cud, this is not something that you would see in the Uintatherium or animals like today's rhinos. But it is a distant relative. I'd say much closer to animals like rhinos than it is the saber-toothed cats, despite the canines. It has been theorized that Uintatherium might have fed on certain like leafy species of plants, and then possibly even had like a sea cow sort of a diet, um, or somewhat feeding behavior. But it doesn't look like it would have fed like different species of omnivores today, like hippos. Let's
Why does
see.
it have a giraffe okapi look?
This is also very distinct within the Uintathere lineage. Why they had this, it was quite robust. It was very possible that these animals or the males would have jousted into each other during the breeding season. So it's very possible these were used for defense to ward off the other mammalian predators, which they still, especially the juveniles, had to be careful. There were already at the time 1,300 pound, well, approaching that. I'd say at least 900-pound mammalian predators already existing at this point. Many tend to associate with the beginning of the Cenozoic era as like small cat-sized mammalian predators. And the truth is, very shortly after the dinosaur extinction, you had a massive increase in mammalian size. Um, but so let's see. Trying to think. Uh, Oh, okay. So this animal existed over in South America, somewhere around 45 to 52 million years ago. And they were a short-lived group. The Uintatheres, technically the branch of mammals that they belonged to, would make it until the end of the Ice Age, but they ended up going extinct somewhere around 40 million years ago. It's a big mystery as to why, just the Uintathere lineage in general.
So they weren't like the puma where they existed at the exact same time at the beginning of mammals?
Oh, you mean like what that um, zoologist told me way back? Yeah, somebody I had asked somebody who was supposed to have a large knowledge base of the cougar, the mountain lion, and she told me that they first evolved at. No, I asked when cougars first evolved, and she said, "Yeah, whenever mammals first evolved." So I said, "Okay, so around 230 million years ago." I said, "Yeah, that sounds about right."
No, I
um,
think you said 2,000,000 years ago. You were messing with her.
oh, yeah, that was sad. Um, anyway, let's keep going. We couldn't believe that it had such a boxy, short skull and that it was still a drysaur. It really busts the mold for these animals. It's such a completely different looking beast than we've seen for these crocodile like animals. The study of dinosaurs in Cerrejón is providing a better understanding of the early history of crocodiles in the neotropics. So, um, yeah, I was honestly quite surprised when I first found out about these creatures, and they're very distinct from even all of the crocodilomorphs from the Mesozoic era. Certain terrestrial ones might have had a somewhat similar skull structure, but still quite distinct. And then we have a large species of turtle from South America at this point. This is Carbonemys, which was Um, I think it's been a bit debated as to what it might have fed on. Here it's showing it feeding on a species of probably a small species of crocodile. I don't know what exactly, but it also lived in Colombia somewhere around 48 million years ago and was about, let's see, 11 feet in length. And, well, when just referring to its shell, probably weighed.
Wait, this thing's 11 feet in length?
Well, maybe if extending the head, but the shell, I was over exaggerating that. It's probably 6 feet.
No, I was just it looks so small in these pictures.
Yeah, it's really hard to tell, and they could weigh probably somewhere around 1,800 pounds. So they were a very heavy set turtle. Now, the distinct spikes that you see on this individual, it's very likely not to have occurred. This distinct model is probably much more realistic. However, this individual seems kind of skinny, so he probably should have a lot more just overall flesh to him. Also, his shell, though, I don't know. It's very possible that Carbonemes might have had just overall thinner shell compared to other tortoises. Now, when looking at the distinct family, the Testudini lineage of turtles, they first evolved somewhere around 150 million years ago during the late Jurassic. And then you wouldn't start popping up into or bumping into more closer turtles of today until the very end of the Cretaceous period, somewhere around 66 million years ago. And then it's interesting, right at the mass extinction, and they would survive and become Carbonibes. But turtles like Carbonimes would also go extinct at the very end of the Eocene as well, so pushing like 39 million years ago. Let me know in the comments what your favorite species of hideous reptile is. And from prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Guy Live Daily News. Remember to like, comment, subscribe if you love talking about animals, and share this show with everyone you know, because nothing is better than all animals all the time.